Hi, I'm Kimberly Allison from Starliner Music. Welcome to my channel. Today in fingerboard geometry, we're going to continue with our study of caged arpeggios. So we'll be taking diatonic triads, those are triads within the key, and placing them around the area where the one chord is in the E form. First, we'll look at fingerings, and then we'll do some exercises. Here we go. I hope you enjoy it. So in fingerboard geometry today, we're going to continue with our caged diatonic arpeggio studies. If you don't know what any of that means, please refer back to some of my earlier videos. In short, caged means we're using one of the 5 basic shapes that are based on the open parent chords CAGED. Diatonic means in the key. So let's start out by putting the one chord A in the E shape. So typically the chord shape would look like this, but we're talking about the arpeggio shape that fits over that. So the one chord will be in the E form, and this is the octave pattern. And so for A, we have the shape that's our one chord A. Now I'm going to be grouping the other arpeggios accordingly so that we're not moving around the fretboard. We're going to stay in a tight fret span here. So B minor would be fingered in the G form. That's the octave pattern, and here's the arpeggio. C sharp minor is the 3 chord. It's in the A form. D major is the 4 chord in the A form. The 5 chord E is in the C form. This is the octave shape. The 6 chord is F sharp minor. It's in the D form. And finally, the 7 chord is in the E form, and it's G sharp diminished. And then we're back to the root A. Now let's try this in one more key. We're going to go up to the key of D, and so that puts us at the 10th fret. That's where D is in the E form, so that's a D chord. So we'll be playing the corresponding arpeggio to that. So those are Ds, and we're going to start with the one chord here, D. The 2 chord is E minor in the G form. The 3 chord is F sharp minor in the A form. The 4 chord is G in the A form. The 5 chord is A in the C form. The 6 chord is B minor in the D form. The 7 chord is C sharp diminished in the E form. And then back to D. Now that we've looked at fingerings, let's go on to the exercises. All right, for the exercises, we're pretty much going to be doing the same thing, except we're going to either randomize the root or use the circle of fifths. In order to randomize the root, you could use a musical die. So this is a 12-sided die that has all the roots on it. You could just roll this for the root of your major scale. Otherwise, you could use the circle of fifths. If you don't know what that is, I will leave the order on screen. To demo the exercise, though, I'm just going to pick B flat. And so it's pretty much what we just did, except I'm going to give you some more specific instruction. I want you first to play the octave pattern. So in the key of B flat, the 1 chord is in the E form. Here's the octave pattern. And then you play the arpeggio. You start and end on the root. Now, on B flat, you're starting here anyway. On some chords, though, the root might be on a different string, so I'll show you how to adjust for that. So now, the 2 chord is C minor in the G form, so you play the octave pattern first, and then up the arpeggio. The 3 chord is in the A form, and that would be D minor. Now, notice the root is here on the A string, so you start here, you play from the root to the top of the pattern, back down to the lowest note, and then return to the root. You're going to do the same for E flat in the A form. So we start at the root and at the root. We'll also do the same for F in the C form. This is the 5 chord. So down to the lowest note of the pattern and then back up to the root. The next chord is the 6. That's G minor in the D form. Lowest note of the pattern, back up the arpeggio, ending at the root. And the last chord is the 7 chord. That's A diminished. Here's the octave shape. And then the arpeggio. And then back to the root. So that's the exercise. If you start with circle of fifths, you could start at C and then go C, G, etc. I'll demo a couple of roots there. Otherwise, you could just roll for a random root. Let's get a look. That's it for caged diatonic arpeggios in the E area. I'm Kimberly Allison from Starliner Music, and I hope to see you back on my channel soon.